Arising from the protodermis, 6 heroes have transformed into the mighty Toa Nuva. With new masks, new armor, and new tools, Toa Nuva are ready to meet any challenge. But will their powers save the island of Matanui or shatter it forever? Cartoon Network's giving you the chance to live the Bionicle legend.
Change is a constant for Halo. In fact, I'd say that the only consistent thing about the series is how not consistent it is. Literally everything changes, from the art direction, to the music, to the writing quality, to the fucking hit registration flip-flopping for every game. Naturally, the series owes itself to comparisons and rankings among things that are similar yet different. And with the recent return of Mark V and its inclusion in Halo Infinite, I thought I'd go ahead and analyze all the designs and rank them accordingly. So grab yourself a crisp can of Halo fluids and try not to reach through the screen, because here we go! The original Mark V is, in my honest, professional, very good, and professional, honest opinion, fucking perfect. Everything about it. The simple visor with the bottom curve contrasting the flat top of it, the perfectly round yet polygonal shapes across the armor as seen in the chest and shoulders, the inclusion of shield emitters across its surface, the fucking moon shoes. Guys, I think Halo peaked early. This design captures the feel of Combat Evolved with flying colors. The simple inclusion of a pouch belt on this otherwise very futuristic armor encapsulates the specific 90s sci-fi aesthetic that CE was going for so well. Bright and vibrant metals have that specific shiny metal material that CE put to such good use, and the visor has a baked-in reflection of the sun visor that sits directly above it, that serves to give our beloved Master Veed's eyes. The model's rough bumps and scratches that are overlaid serve to give the armor a history, like you've been fighting a war for untold years. This version of Mark V, in my honest opinion, the version of Mark V, is perfect. It's a timeless model with a simple yet effective design that encapsulates the feeling of the game it was introduced in perfectly. A time capsule for a long-forgotten era of the series. So yeah, I think it gets an S. Next one. Next up is Halo 3's Mark V, and oh, I have some words for this fucking thing. I don't know how unpopular of an opinion this is, but yeah, I fucking hate this thing with all my heart. It somehow manages to fuck up almost all the endearing traits of the original. I get that it's going for a new thing, a sort of modernization, but it just fucks up horribly in my opinion. The vents poking out of the helmet? Nope, that shit's been sanded down and made flush with the helmet's jaw. Okay, how about the shape of the jaw and the lower helmet in general? Gone! It's an incredibly basic shape with the slightest Mark V garnishes sprinkled on. Because of this, the flashlights on the side of the helmet sit at a strange inward angle, rather than straight out and at whoever the wearer is looking at. Additionally, the overhang that sat above the flashlights is gone because of the change in the helmet's shape. The fucking visor. Why put such prominent, such ugly fucking visor lines on the helmet known for not having any? And before I get inundated with comments, I know why. The new lighting engine called for the removal of baked-in lighting, thus removing the perpetual sun visor reflection in the Mark V's visor. But later Mark V variants do add visor lines, while still keeping the center of the visor relatively clean, so why couldn't this? The design, and all of the shit choices along the way, led to a helmet that I just really want to punch. I guess it was a learning experience for those looking to redesign Mark V's helmet. The first of many, but we'll get into that soon. In the meantime, F. This thing is shit. Okay, now that I got that out of my system, time to move on to Reach. You'd think I would hate this thing, right? Because of how different it is from the original? Well, I'd say it does the previous Mark V's job better than that thing did, and properly modernizes, or for lack of a better term, Mark VIifies it. The shape of the helmet is still pretty, It's weird and I don't care for it, but I think the vents on the jaw protruding really carry this design for me. That and the simpler visor. Bungie learned from their sins and made sure not to repeat them, lest terminally online Halo fans such as myself say mean things to them. Another thing, the flashlights don't stick out as far as the Halo 3 variants do, so they look less like big dopey ears. Also, looking at this helmet reminds me of the hit Machinima Series C and P, so it gets a pass in that regard as well. Generally, I think this helmet is pretty inoffensive. Like I've said before, it does what the Halo 3 variant of Mark V did, just better, as well as successfully fitting into Reach's specific art style. Not that Halo 3's didn't, it just looked like garbage. So for this, I'm thinking a B. A B for not bad, because it believed in itself. So, Combat Evolved Anniversaries Mark V is our first top-to-bottom, more than just a helmet remake of Mark V, and, it certainly leaves a lot to be desired. Let's start with the helmet, since I think it's probably the least egregious thing out of this. The exact way the vent protrudes from the jaw is different, also meaning that the vent intakes, or whiskers, of those vents has changed shape. It's different. I can't say I'm a fan. If we look at the helmet from a front-on view, like we are now, we also see that the top half of the helmet is far larger than it should be. Fucking Jimmy Neutron brain over here. It extends far past the flashlights, which they themselves are either pushed out by the top of the helmet like I said before, or perhaps the flashlights are pushed too far in. Either way, it's lost a lot of balance that it once had. The overall visor shape is fine. It does the bottom curve better than Halo 4's. We'll get to that later. It just might be a little too big for the helmet, whereas Halo 4's feels a little small. Again, getting to that next. Now for the rest of the armor, and geez, I know CEA's whole thing was reachifying CE, but good lord, this is fucking ridiculous. Greebles added on the forearms, inner thigh, biceps. His fucking dick got greebled. And the chest piece? First things first, why'd they fuse the abdomen plate to the upper chest? It makes the armor look way more clunky than it actually was in CE, even if it admittedly was a pretty chunky feller. The upper chest plate also has this strange indent here, as well as the 4 nipple bumps that protrude from there. Only one of them is actually a shield emitter though? Absolutely bizarre. Before we conclude, I don't think any one small detail makes this design weird or whack-ass. Obviously, all of them contribute, but I think what really sells how bizarre this armor is the proportions. He looks weirdly elongated, like a weasel or a FNAF fan game animatronic weasel. He's also lacking that broadness in the shoulders he ought to have as well, which serves to make this design look even more like a stodgy little freak. Or maybe this is all in the specific image of him and I'm just insane. Who knows? Either way, D. Not great, and I do dislike it, but I don't have the energy to hate it. Alright, I've teased my thoughts on Halo 4's take on the Mark V a little bit. Now it's time I talk about it. For a while, I saw people heralding it as the second best Mark V armor, but honestly, I really disagree. Yeah, the helmet's generally a bit closer, but otherwise I think it's a gangly mess. More a symptom of all of Halo 4's armor making the Spartans look like they haven't had a good meal in 10 eons, but I digress. Starting with that helmet, yeah, that bottom curve is a little too curvy. And not in the Halo Reach Spartan way, no. It just reaches its destination a little quick and needs to be more flat in the center. The vents are back to being mostly flush, only protruding ever so slightly, and the vent details point the wrong direction, with the outer edge pointing up rather than down. Besides that, it's fine though, I don't mind it. As for the armor, it's a gross hybrid between CEA's details and Halo 4's broader design philosophy. Thin, jagged, over-detailed at times, too segmented in places, and despite its thin nature, it somehow manages to get a potbelly due to how much the pouch belt protrudes. Proper dad bod MJOLNIR going on here. Overall, I think the helmet carries this design hard. Otherwise, I'd argue for it being as bad as CEA's. Definitely a C for me. With Halo 5, the strange trend of designating Mark V variants with Roman numerals continues after Mark V-B with the Mark V Alpha and... oh dear. At least it's back to being chunky? Wow. I need to use my words and stop making villager noises. This is kinda shit. There's a lot of individual stuff I enjoy about this, namely the arms, legs, and... okay, that's actually it, the torso and helmet are dog shit. Plenty of people have clowned on this poor thing's helmet already, so I'll go ahead and keep it brief. Let's see. Inbred pug face helmet, okay, check. Smushed in a trash compactor, yep, got it. 343 killed Halo shit game. Maybe a little extreme, but yeah, I think that covers this thing's effect. The torso, however, I don't ever see people talk about how this thing is all kinds of wrong. So first off, these things on the center protrude a bit. Why? Why does the armor have nipples? AVGN, what were they thinking, .gif? Second, you know that pouch belt I keep talking about? That beautiful, lovely thing that adds so much to the design? Where the fuck did it go? Oh, there it is. Fused into the back of the torso armor. Why? Speaking of getting fused into the torso, the abdomen plate has yet again gotten the CEA treatment of just getting welded in place, despite 343 straight up deleting the pouch belt for posability's sake. I also feel like the torso ends a bit narrow at the top, like it isn't as broad as it should be. Overall, yeah, this thing is shit. D tier. It's the Halo 3 variant, but somehow worse, because they forgot to light up the right flashlight Dumbo ear. Also F, send it to Horse Plinko. Okay, this thing barely even resembles Mark V despite the name, so I decided to not include it. It's just a weird, fucked up fusion of Mark V Alpha, the Halo 4 Chief, and Mark IV all at once. There's my TLDR. Now, one more official stop before we move on to the most recent Mark V is a technicality of sorts. Though it isn't actually listed as a Mark V variant, in my heart it is. Menakite is a fusion of all that has come before, a perfect modernization that in my opinion surpasses the Reach variant in that distinct goal. Despite the complete lack of vent intakes, it looks strikingly like a typical Mark V helmet due to the recessed sides where these blocks sit. They aren't flashlights, I'm not sure what they are, truth be told, but they form that silhouette excellently. The sealed sun visor from the Reach variant returns, as well as the top of the helmet strangely evoking Mark VI of all helmets. Finally, the visor shape is a sharp and modern take on the original. I've noticed in gameplay that at certain angles it will look like different helmets. In one moment it looks like Mark V, and in others it will look like Mark IV. Overall, the helmet appears to be a love letter to all of the Mark variant MJOLNIR made by the Materials Group. Beautiful, sleek, and you can put cat ears on it, so of course it's getting an A. Before we move on to Infinite's Mark V, let's take a look at the remade model made by Marcus Leto, who made the original model for Chief back in the late 90s. And, well, there isn't too much to say honestly. It's beautiful, perfect, amazing, all the other words I usually use to describe CE Mark V. It is quite literally a straight remake of the original design. All the proportions are correct, the little details all where they should be, and it just works. It shows the design in a high fidelity, and you can't ask for much more than that. Quite literally the epitome of the phrase, perfect, no notes. So good job, Marcus. 20 years later and you still got it. S tier. Finally, we reach Halo Infinite's take on our beloved MJOLNIR Mark V. And it's perfect. This model is, without question, the best official remake we've ever gotten. The Leto remake beats this in terms of accuracy any day, but for a proper remake, a wholly new but still faithful design, this is the best by far. It's a perfect retcon design. If 343 wanted to, they could easily go out and say, this is the canon design for Master Chief during Halo CE, ignore CEA, and it would make complete sense. It has some of the bells and whistles of a modern Halo design, like this modern elephant foot boot instead of the moonshoe look from before, but it still actually looks like Mark V. Words can't describe how perfect that helmet is either. It's perfect. Like seeing an old friend after years of not talking. The chest plate is slightly different, with the collar and these blocks on the sides now protruding being the primary differences. But besides that, it's spot fucking on. The codpiece somewhat resembles Mark IV, which is a neat design choice, and the limbs all balance detail and accuracy very well. The pouch belt is finally back too, and it looks excellent. In conclusion, 343 please retcon this armor over the CEA one, and I will be the first person to buy the new Jazzware figure you make of it. Okay, thanks, love you. S tier. And that's just about everything. Here's the finished tier list for your viewing pleasure. I've gone ahead and linked a template in the description. Let me know how you rank these. I'm interested to see your thoughts and opinions on all of these. And now that I'm done with this, I can finally retreat back into my hole and let the reality of my $20 purchase sink in. Thanks, 343!